The BVI's national basketball team left the territory for Bahamas on Thursday, July 21st, after going through their preparations for this year's CBC tournament carried for July 23rd to the 29th. On Saturday, July 9th, the team took on the BVI All-Stars in a friendly warm-up game that was geared toward measuring the team's preparedness for their upcoming competition. By the end of the game, though, some concerns were obvious, as the national team, which failed to advance during last year's CBC tournament, fell to the BVI All-Stars with a score of 70-58. With a wrap-up of the game, here is JTV News' Walter Barrett.
The BVI national basketball team recently concluded its final rounds of preparations for the 2011 CBC Championships being held in the Bahamas. After finishing in a not-so-satisfactory position last year, Team BVI is hoping to redeem themselves in the Bahamas and to make it at least in the top 3 where they'll be able to qualify for the Olympic Games. As part of the preparations, the BVI was scheduled to play a scrimmage game against the USVI, but because of difficulties on the part of St. Thomas, the BVI national team played against the BVI All-Stars instead. Coached by Brian Bash Bruley, the BVI All-Stars took to the floor against Keith 88 Malone's national team, and it was expected that the national team would dominate in the friendly matchup, but that would not be the case. The game started with both teams showing much determination to dominate the boards, but as the first half progressed, the national team realized that it would be no walk in the park for them playing against the BVI All-Stars.
As the buzzer sounds, Kobo! Screech! First time out.
By the half, the national team was down by 2 points, and according to coach Keith Malone, the scrimmage match was revealing areas that needed addressing before the team headed to the CBC Games.
Well, this is the first scrimmage that the team had since we've been practicing, so I'll blame it on nerves. I think the guys were just a little anxious to come out here and execute. Once we got going, the game got down. We down by 6. I think that we could have almost be in front or tied the game if we made our free throws. But you know, we still have 2 quarters to go.
The second half saw more action as the BVI All-Stars began to pull away from the national team, thanks mainly to the efforts of J.R. Cheverton, who was kicked off the national team last year for what was termed unsportsmanlike conduct during last year's games in Santo Domingo, a controversial move that many continue to question to this day, although Cheverton recently received a scholarship to attend and play with a college abroad. At the end of the game, the score reflected that the national team still had some kinks to work out before leaving for the Bahamas, as the BVI All-Stars handed the national team a 70-58 loss. JTV News heard from Keith Malone after the game, who said that some of his key players were absent for the matchup, which may have resulted in a different outcome had they been there.
Basically, you know, we have some puzzles still missing, some pieces still missing to this puzzle. Cleon Penn, and then you know we got some other guards. So I'm not worried. I think that we will do well.
JTV News also heard from Brian Bruley, who said that his team was the better team at the end of the day.
I know both teams, so I know which way to go to explore, you know. And we were the better team tonight. They played. I guess they wanted to prove something too, you know. But they play good defense, you know. And when it comes, they got the job done.
The men's tournament will be divided into 2 zones. Zone A, Jamaica, the U.S. Virgin Islands, Antigua and Barbuda, Guyana, and Turks and Caicos. Zone B, British Virgin Islands, host Bahamas, Bermuda, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the Cayman Islands. For JTV News, I'm Walter Barrett.